probably gonna be shorter because I just like this conversation that's happening here in High Workshop got me riled up. You know, have you ever looked at World of Warcraft and thought, "Oh my dear Lord, how much potential was wasted"? You probably didn't because it's still a live service and it's meant to be played and not thought much about. That's my take on World of Warcraft, modern World of Warcraft anyway. But looking at things like why aren't there, for example, unique classes or class mixes based on the race that has these classes available? It's like, where did Blade Masters go? Why don't orcs have a unique variant of a rogue like the Blade Master? It could have had different balance. Instead of one-handed swords and daggers and whatever, it could have used the two-handed swords or other similar, or maybe limited only to swords, right? Balance it in other ways. Why don't Tauren have, instead of a warrior and a druid, why don't they have a Earth Mother worshipper, like a unique take? They combine like strengths of warriors and some things from druids, right? But they're limited to like, I don't know. You get the idea. So much potential, so much. And it was just wasted. That's also the theme when I look at Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos, and the Frozen Throne. That's where this conversation initially started for me. That's when I joined. And when I look at the way that Blizzard, before it joined with Activision and even after, how they decided to go about the storytelling, it's like, don't get me wrong, those stories are still good. But I stuck with the games because they had good mechanics, good visuals, and it was a good RTS. Not because of the story, even though the story was memorable, and then I wanted to know more. There's this recurring theme when it comes to Blizzard, where they seem to be, I wouldn't say creatively bankrupt, even though that is a term I used in here in regards to Sylvanas. But I would say that they keep on having tunnel vision onto one concept, one thing, one scenario, one character, right? That's always their theme. Of course, that is a theme which can either lead to great success or great failure, depending on how well do you execute this one thing. So it's like putting all eggs in one basket, instead of in like multiple baskets, if you get the meaning. But to get to the point, when I look at bad characters, not bad characters, evil characters, how are they made? Well, two ways. They either just come into the story and are evil, just for the reason of being evil, and maybe they say something else, but really, they are there just to be evil. Or they are good and they gradually turn into evil. What could you have if you have a good character that's turning evil? Say, hey, this is, for example, Arthas. He's just walked into Lordaeron, he's a crown prince and whatever. However, he is starting to turn into an evil character, so what can happen? Either he can never become evil because somebody intervenes, or he can become only slightly evil, or he can become much more evil than anybody could ever imagine, or other opportunities that I currently can't think of. And what happens? Always evil. Similar characters like him, always evil. Barely ever is there any other scenario that occurs when somebody starts turning evil or when somebody starts being corrupted. They never can resist the corruption. They never can, right? So that's that. The same goes with like the story. When you have, for example, something like Sylvanas, which was from where I'm looking, an extraordinary banshee of incredible power, which managed to revive its own body so that she could then repossess it and turn into a willing zombie. Instead of like any other number of cases where like she doesn't possess anything for a while, then she breaks free of the Lich King, and then she actually goes back to elves and possesses some elf which like loses a soul in some tragic incident with magic or something. Like, you had so many opportunities and all of it wasted just so that Sylvanas could be somebody who blames Arthas for her own decision to stand in front of the Silvermoon gates and walls and fighting there instead of shooting at the undead from the walls. Like, same with one other case that I mentioned here somewhere and I don't recall it anymore. But you get the idea, right? It's always only one way that things can go down in. It's like, as I said, there's still good RTS games, but so much, so wasted. Especially knowing how much money Blizzard made off of these games, and that RTS, in my opinion, was the genre and the products that got them where they are today in the first place. They got so much money, so many investors, so much public interest, so much goodwill, so much of pretty much everything that a game company or company that makes games can ask and wish for. Some companies will never reach that just because their games don't fit the taste at the moment, or their game is too niche, like Space Station 13, for example, even though that's a great game. And like, they got everything. And where is it today? The company's firing employees by hundreds while making more and more money. Of course, I'm not going to continue down this way. We all know what's happening to Activision Blizzard. If you don't, well, do I have a swamp to sell you? But so much potential, all wasted, just because the leadership is bad. And that, in turn, didn't quote-unquote force, but really, how long can you last in an environment that is not really doing much for your mental health? So, like, a bad leadership forced everyone else out and probably had increasing influence in development. It's like, where are we today? Well, nowhere, that's where. They closed off so much from Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos, and The Frozen Throne 2. It's like, they could have had so much more of an interesting setup for a sequel, Warcraft 4, or even for the World of Warcraft, which they solely focus on these days. If they had Blood Elves never join Alliance or Horde, never joined Alliance or Horde, permanently that is, for the story purposes it would still work, of an RTS, because you'd need twists and turns of a story. But Blood Elves never join either side. Pandas never join either side. Nagas, or not Nagas, but like various other groups, Night Elves don't join either side. And it's like, then you have the smaller group, which is Alliance, this maybe slightly larger group, which is Horde, because whatever, some reason. And then you have this larger group, which is neutrals, quote-unquote neutrals, and they're like allying between each other, and they're fighting between each other, and they're allying with one side, other, fighting with one other. Instead, you have this mass of Alliance on the left side in character creation and World of Warcraft, and then this other mass, which is Horde. And then you have this small bar of like Pandaren where you can pick later, and maybe Death Knights, but Death Knights don't really give you a choice. That's what you make in the... Right? See what I'm trying to... They could have had so much more of an interesting storytelling in World of Warcraft too with that. It's like, oh, wait, right. So... the way it works now is everybody's either in one group or the other group. There's nothing in the middle, so we only have extremes. And only later in Pandaria do we realize we made a mistake. So, right, let's fix it by adding one race where you get a choice. One. And that's only illusion of a choice. You can only pick one of the two predetermined choices. Imagine if instead it was... The problem with having two extremes, like two big groups, is the map will always be controlled by one or the other. Barely ever is there a possibility that a piece of a map is not controlled by one big body or another big body. They always want as much land as they can get. Instead, if you had two smaller groups and then many neutrals, it would be much more intriguing, because they would have to negotiate with more sites, more reputation, more things to do, more unique things, more cultures, quests, whatever. You name it, even more professions. It's so annoying, so disappointing to see. So very, very disappointing. Like, all they had to do was keep following the trends that were not being set by them, but that were set by the players. It's like players say, oh, hey, how about a Warcraft 4? No, you get World of Warcraft. Fine. What about the story being actually good? No, you get retcons, story plot armor, and characters that died, even 2 to 3 times, are actually alive, and that was all just jokes. Right? This 4th time, they're actually gonna die. Psych, 3 expansions later, he's back. It's like... I don't want to trash somebody who worked on a game, who made still a good story, but so much that has like vanished, because nowadays Blizzard part of Activision, of course, it's no longer just Blizzard. Nowadays Blizzard Even before it was like Vivendi's Blizzard, but that's neither here nor there. Nowadays, Blizzard is just like, okay, I guess we killed off the bad guy. Who's the next in line? Right, Sylvanas. Actually, we made her the bad guy like 2 to 3 times already. Maybe they're gonna hate it the 4th time. Probably not if we just redo her visually a bit. Maybe retcon some of the lore. Yeah, that could work. What about the other characters? Oh yeah, we don't have any use for them. We could actually save them for the future, but no. Let's just to have shock value and bring players back. Let's kill them off by some rando, by some spell. Yeah, that'll do. You see where I'm headed? They don't explore all the other possibilities. And if they were a smaller studio, like indie, I would get that. You don't have the resources. An example of that is Pillars of Eternity 1, and then this other game that Mandalore, I think, made a review on recently, which is also made by Obsidian, where they just don't have the resources. So they can't do all these things. But a company which has they had the resources, they decided not to. Fine. But then they decided not only not to, but also to lock the possibility and kill off all of the material they didn't use. And I'm like, okay, I don't think that your company has a future, that your product has good enough outlooks. Like you've said to yourself, from a huge road which has pavements, lampposts, people walking both ways, crossing the road, cars driving, bus stations, buses, trucks driving, you took yourself out from that road, moved like way far back elsewhere, and now you're standing on a plank that's extending from the side of a ship, and down there are sharks, and you're walking on the plank. That's not gonna end well. And we already see signs of that. Record revenue, firing people. Products being rushed out. Never mind, rush them out even sooner next time. Like, and also losing the talent, the people that made the still good stories of Warcraft and like Starcraft and whatever. It's like, I'm not a CEO. You're probably not a CEO, but I think we can both agree there's obvious flaws and obvious problems, which probably anyone can see. Probably. There's still people who can't, for various reasons, but probably everyone can see these problems. We're not CEOs. One person is. If that one person doesn't see these problems, then what is he doing? I would say he does. He's just ignoring them. Actually, not one CEO, but multiple. You got colleague, then you got the you think you do but you don't person. It's just so stupid. So incredibly stupid. So upsetting. It's also that the, Warcraft stories and World of Warcraft, just like with one scenario, also are like set in one scenario, in one way. There's often there is no gray area. It's often something is good or something is bad. Rarely ever is there something in the gray area. And if it appears, then it's only like a brief flash. So, for example, the development of the Blood Elves, quote-unquote humans, in Frozen Throne, right? Then first you have Alliance, but then you need the help of Naga, then you are condemned, then you're imprisoned, and blah, 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 and then you actually have to join with them, and then you go elsewhere. Right, that was interesting. But where did it go? The joining with Naga, and turning quote-unquote good again. It's like... And then elves were bad because they were trying to imprison Illidan. It's like, never ever is there like room for interpretation in Warcraft. And I probably guess that in modern World of Warcraft too. I don't know. I don't know what to say. After all of that, yes, I'm out of words. No longer have I much to say. But you can spy all of this in their other products too. StarCraft 2, Diablo 3. It was like, They didn't learn after making so many games, so many products, having so much success. They didn't learn. And now they're driving it to the ground. Not just in the game development, but also in handling people too. It's like, keep on firing, keep on being mean, keep on giving next to no money. And but that's neither here nor there. It's on a larger scale. As a humanity, we keep on doing the same shitty things, same stupid decisions and whatever. I digress. This was supposed to be about Warcraft, World of Warcraft, Activision, and Blizzard, and the tremendous potential that was never used. Not only that, it was just killed. And it's really fucking sad. Alright, well, excuse me, I'll just close this off now and go play something else, which actually tries to do this. And even though things like Pillars of Eternity 1 are extremely elaborate RPGs, they will never or be able to replace the void that is left by knowing that Activision will probably never greenlight any RTS, anything of this, and that we can't travel in time anymore. We probably won't ever be able to travel in time and like try and improve that or fix it or tell them, hey, what about the other possibilities? And there's just a void. It doesn't have to be there, that's the worst. But it is there. It's probably not going to disappear. And what can I tell you?